Hello and welcome back. A while ago, After Effects implemented a new tool called Essential Graphics. This tool allows us to overcome some of the biggest problems we had in the past when working with the program to create templates and reusable assets for our animations. In this lesson, we'll start with how we used to do things before we had Essential Graphics, and then move on to how they make everything easier now. Before Essential Graphics. When working on big projects or in long-term partnerships with clients, we might start thinking about ways to create reusable assets for our animations. Assets that can be easily imported and modified by changing things like the size, color, or typefaces, and in a way that helps us build our projects better and more efficiently. The problem is the way After Effects was built to manage these asset galleries, meaning the only way we had to work with this was by creating multiple copies of compositions or nested compositions, and then we would have to manually go and change the parameters in each individual comp to adjust them to the project's needs. This all sounds nice and easy, but as projects get bigger, the file structure also grows and changes. Having multiple copies of a composition and managing them in different timelines in a way that we don't end up accidentally changing or replacing something that might break other scenes becomes a constant problem. The other huge problem is that layers and animations that are expression-driven, for example the ones we get when rigging characters with third-party plugins like Duik, tend to break if you create copies of the composition or nested composition with expressions in them. As a way to fix this and make asset management easier, Adobe introduced the Essential Graphics tool into After Effects in one of their latest versions. How Essential Graphics work. Essential Graphics allows us to create assets inside comps and set almost any parameter as an essential graphic. As you can see in the following example, where I have this shape inside the shape composition. If I nested this composition into another composition, you'll see that under the drop-down tab, we now have something called Essential Properties. And if I unfold that one, I now have color, rotation, scale, and stroke width parameters. So far, this is nothing that we don't have in our normal Transform tab already. But the biggest difference is that my shape is already animated, and I can make indestructible transformations to it. This means if I change the color to blue, the rotation to 90 degrees, and the scale to 120, it will still animate perfectly. And even better than that, if I go into the shape composition, everything is as it was originally. Now let's say I need another copy of my shape. I can just drag and drop the shape layer again, or duplicate the one I already have in my timeline by selecting it and going into Edit, Duplicate, or by pressing Command-Control+D on my keyboard. With my duplicate shape layer ready, let's say this time we need to change the color to green. Flip it around and have no stroke. As you can see, I can do all of it on my duplicate and still have it animate perfectly. And instead of having to duplicate the shape comp 3 times in my project panel to have the original version, the blue, and the green, I was able to do so with the use of Essential Graphics and have only one comp and know that no matter how many times I drag it into a new timeline or duplicate it as a layer, no changes will happen to the original one. This gets even better if you think that now you only have to manage a single asset if the client sends any amendments for that asset. You can make those in one of them and have them update all through your project in an instant. For example, let's say the client wants to have rounded corners for our shape. I can quickly make the changes, then go back into my main comp, and both my layers have been updated and have kept their modified parameters. The last thing that makes the use of Essential Graphics a great addition to After Effects is that we're also able to animate any of the Essential Properties parameters we have in our timeline, and this still won't affect our original asset composition.